The mainstream media is literally collapsing around us. Hollow legacy institutions clinging to nothing other than their history as their unforgivable sins of the past few years lead to reputational ruin and financial destruction. They deserve it, and I celebrate it. So we'll come to the BBC's historic crisis as Donald Trump threatens to sue for $1 billion and Sly News' disgusting attempt to deride British Christians using Tommy Robinson to do so very soon. But nothing has chilled my bones more than woke ITV, a once iconic company that I worked for a decade, but is now in so much trouble that it's about to be subsumed by the hard left US broadcaster Concast, creating and allowing one of its star presenters to openly advocate for the introduction of Sharia law. This is Adil Ray. I've warned you about this guy for a long time. He is a danger. He is an Islamist who has been given a cozy platform on the breakfast show Good Morning Britain with no journalistic experience whatsoever, by the way, to push an extreme agenda. Indeed, you might remember he was number 11 on my inaugural list of the 50 worst people in the UK today, for good reason. And he has now finally shown his true colours by backing Sharia law publicly last week after the election of Zohran Mamdani in New York, writing, "Some say Mamdani may implement Sharia law. He might. The heart of Sharia is social justice, welfare, fairness, charity, and cohesion. Most Muslim countries operate a hybrid of Sharia and civil law, and thus slowly reforming and abandoning unethical practices despite the West's portrayal." Now, The Sun reported he was hauled in by ITV bosses. A source telling the newspaper GMB execs are pretty cross. His comments sent bosses into a tailspin and he was called in. It was a nightmare as hours earlier as ITV, it was revealed, are in talks to sell its broadcasting arm to Sky in a £1.6 billion deal. Obviously, they don't want anything to derail the deal. So after that meeting, he posted to clarify, "I am not actually suggesting Mamdani would implement Sharia law, but many of the issues he campaigned for are also some of the positive values of Sharia that Muslims try to live by, something many of us would agree on." Believe it or not, ITV swiftly allowed him to return to that friendly sofa on Friday, remembering that they sacked Piers Morgan for far less, simply for daring to challenge Meghan Markle's various lies to Oprah Winfrey, and former stars of ITV were rightly horrified. Like my friend, the ex-This Morning presenter Emma Kenny, who posted incredulously, "Just some light stoning, a pinch of beheading, and a little touch of female subjugation. What's not to like?" But this sort of Islam extremism is now becoming so commonplace and so acceptable within the MSM that a regular star of the BBC, Chunks, goes out there and proudly admits that he would disown his own children if they dared leave Islam.
If he wanted to leave, not be Muslim, you'd disown him?
Yeah, I'd say, yo, that can't run for me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So
like, as in, don't get twisted. You can leave it, but you can also come back. You get it?
Yeah.
I feel like leaving
While
the
you're
fold
out,
of Islam, I can't part with you, man. You know what I mean? Like, I know I'll always have that unconditional love where I see the youth and if I see him in a pass, I'm always going to try and stop it. But I feel like having that want to love this person without being under the fold of Islam, I can't part with that, man.
Cool, that's a good answer.
Yeah.
No, it's not. No, it's really not. But this is just what's happening now at the British Bashing Corporation, at Woke ITV, which sees no problem, by the way, with its star advocating for Sharia law. So I just want to explain why this type of suicidal empathy will be the beginning of the end of the West. Indeed it is. Because Sharia is an absolute abomination. A medieval throwback that has no place in the modern world, let alone creeping into our British society like some insidious virus via broadcasters we are meant to trust given their storied legacy. Sharia isn't about cultural diversity or religious tolerance. It is a blueprint for inhumanity, for oppression, for outright barbarism. It crushes individual freedoms, treats women like second-class citizens, and condemns gay people to unimaginable horrors. If we don't stand up now and shout from the rooftops about this, we are sleepwalking into a nightmare. So let me break it down with some real gut-wrenching examples that should make every freedom-loving patriot sick to their stomach. First of all, let's talk about what Sharia does to gay people. And trust me, it is nothing short of a death sentence in many places where this so-called law holds sway. In countries like Saudi Arabia, where Sharia is the backbone of the legal system, homosexuality is criminalized and punishable by death, often through flogging, stoning, or even beheading. Imagine being thrown off a building or publicly executed for loving someone of the same sex. That is the reality under outfits like the Islamic State, who justify hurling gay men from rooftops in Iraq and Syria as divine punishment. And don't get me started on Iran, where Sharia-inspired hangings of gay men are routine, all under the guise of religious purity. And this isn't ancient history. It is happening right now in 2025, and it is a stark reminder that Sharia views gay people like me as subhuman, worthy only of eradication. So I have said it before, and I will say it again, the biggest threat to us in the UK isn't some phantom far-right bogeyman. It is the creeping influence of Sharia and Islamist ideology that treats people like me like criminals, and I know for a fact that position is being taught in mosques throughout East London right now. Now let's move on to women, over 50% of the population. Sharia law is a nightmare if you are a woman, that enshrines male dominance and strips females of basic dignity. In places like Afghanistan, under the Taliban, women are barred from education, work, and even leaving the house without a male guardian, all justified by twisted interpretations of Sharia. A woman's testimony in court worth half that of a man. Inheritance, she gets half what her brothers do. Divorce, good luck, but men can ditch their wives with a snap of the finger, while women jump through hoops. And let's not forget the Quranic verse some use to justify husbands beating their wives if they step out of line. Clearly not equality, but abuse codified into law, Sharia law. In Saudi Arabia, women still need male permission for everything from travel to marriage, and honor killings where families murder women for shaming them are often overlooked under Sharia's shadow. Stoning for adultery. That's a Sharia had punishment where women accused of infidelity, often without evidence, are buried up to their necks before being pelted to death. It is sheer inhumanity, treating women as property rather than people. And here in the UK, we already have Sharia councils operating in the shadows, dishing out advice that echoes this rubbish. It is a disgrace. And star male TV presenters on woke ITV arguing for tolerance are sick. But the horrors do not stop there. Sharia's inhumanities extend to anyone who dares question the faith or steps outside its rigid lines. Simply leaving Islam can mean death in places like Pakistan or Somalia, where blasphemy laws lead to mob lynchings or state executions. There's corporal punishment, amputation for theft, flogging for drinking alcohol, still enforced today in Iran and Sudan, leaving people maimed for life. It is a system that breeds fear, suppresses free thought, and prioritizes divine retribution over human rights. So wake up! Because we cannot let this poison infiltrate our shores under the banner of tolerance. Sharia is quite clearly not compatible with our long-fought freedoms. It is a direct assault on them. And if we value equality, liberty, and basic human decency, we must reject it outright. No ifs, No buts. The time for pussyfooting around is over. And now that we have softball ITV shows that used to focus on, the latest Corrie storyline or a little bit of Westminster gossip, now we have them pushing this insanity. It really does mark a dark new chapter. Some sane folk have advocated for Ray's axe scene. Alison Pearson raged, Adil Ray should be sacked. Disturbing to have a mainstream presenter declaring support for misogynist Sharia law. Carol Malone added, never mind crisis talks, he should be sacked. Sharia law is an abomination that discriminates against and harms women. Chris Rose argued after disliked Adil Ray attempted to claim that jihad merely means a spiritual struggle. So it's no surprise that he declared support for Sharia law and presented it as a beacon of liberalism. This gaslighting charlatan should not be on air. Leo Kearse asked, if Adil Ray likes Sharia law, why is he here? There are many countries with Sharia law that would welcome him. Why don't people live where they want instead of turning Britain into where they want? Kamran Hassan replied, because it is his country and he has a right to argue for change within it. But Leo hit back, if migrants have the right to change their host country, you've made a very convincing argument to end immigration from incompatible cultures. Now, what's most extraordinary is that ITV's next owner, Concast, the channel behind Sly News, is even worse. As they vociferously refuse to criticize Islam in any way, today, as part of this mass gaslighting in the mainstream media, they have launched a truly revolting investigation trying to slam the rise of Christianity among patriots and Tommy Robinson supporters in this Christian nation. Watch. Okay, half of you watching this are not subscribed to Dan Wootton Outspoken, and the best way you can support what we do is by hitting that subscribe button. It is completely free, and turn on the notification bell to be alerted to our new episodes.
Amen. Amen. Yes. Yes.
Critics called you the far-right bishop, a label he rejects. But he represents a new type of Christianity, more militant, more political, one I've come here to understand. Several of those here came because they saw Dewar speaking at Tommy Robinson's Unite the Kingdom rally. And they are ready to follow him into the cold waters of the Celtic Sea.
God bless you, Fergus, man.
I saw Kieran's speech at Unite the Kingdom rally, and it was just epic. I mean, I just loved it.
The other thing that Kieran does, he preaches around the political side a bit more, especially when it comes to, immigration and Islam. Is that a message that chimes as well with you?
I'd say so, yeah. I would say there's we are a Christian culture, we're a Christian nation. And I do feel like we have lost a lot of that.
And what are they really angry about? Why does Sly News have such a problem with this? Because the bishop appeared at Unite the Kingdom.
God, you have not abandoned Britain. And though our night has been long, yet your dawn breaks.
In September, Dewar had addressed the 150,000 strong crowd at the Tommy Robinson Unite the Kingdom march in central London. It was not his first appearance with the far-right activist.
This nation of ours is under attack.
In July last year, he also shared his stage.
We are not at war with just the Muslim.
This is something new, and it is growing. A movement that has long marched against immigration, against Islam, is now marching behind the cross.
When we arrived, that lady said, "Oh, it's the far-right bishop."
Yeah.
How do you feel about that?
Oh, I laugh now. I am none of the things that they call me, but it's now become a moniker that is, something I laugh at.
Now, Tommy Robinson has responded to this Sly News report, writing, Sly News turn a blind eye to Islamic speakers, politicians calling for a caliphate and hate against all non-Muslims. Yet when Brits start coming back to Christ in their Christian homeland, Sly News calls them all far right. Gutter journalism, legacy media is finished. And of course, next, Sly News decided to drag in our friends Katie Hopkins and Father Calvin Robinson over the word crusade.
It goes from a culture war to a clash of civilizations.
Or even further than that. Anti-immigrant and anti-Islam campaigners promote the idea of a holy war.
Certainly, the time of the Crusades will need to come again if we are to return.
What do you mean by that?
We are overrun in every way.
And that online culture filters back to the ground. New groups like this one on Instagram use crusader imagery to start the final war on Islam, attracting more than 50,000 followers. Maria Power, who researches the far right's use of religion, says it is Christian nationalism. Not just a flag to rally behind, but a cross too.
People there would say, this is a Christian country, we should be able to show our flag, march with the cross, say prayers at these things, and that's not necessarily intimidating or racist, it's just we are saying this is our identity, we're proud of it.
Yeah, but I think if you're using your identity to threaten, and you're shouting and proclaiming your identity in a way that makes people that don't, as you see it, belong, it is threatening.
So it's threatening. It's threatening. Not the rise of Sharia law, but the return to Christianity. Of course, they would never say that Christianity they'd never say that Islam being on the march was scary, but they're happy to say it about Christianity. Watch.
You're ready for it, mate. Ready for it.
Come on, Mark.
This isn't just about the extreme right using Christianity for their own ends. It's just as much some Christians using the far right to reach new audiences.
And the Holy Spirit. Amen.
A new Christian politics, in all sorts of ways and all sorts of places, is on the march.
God bless you, man.
Tom Cheshire, Sky News, Bude, Cornwall.
Well, Bishop Karen Dua is utterly furious about that dishonest Sly News reporting. He has spoken out exclusively to Outspoken today, threatening legal action against the woke company. Watch.
Dan, I want to thank you for the opportunity to set the record straight concerning this piece on Sky News. It is nothing more than a hatchet job, a hit job now, in my opinion. I was pretty optimistic that they would be fair, but the labels that they have applied in their online and on-air reporting of me today are just totally unacceptable. They are defamation beyond a shadow of a doubt. To label me a self-styled bishop is not only wildly inaccurate because they've done no research whatsoever, it is completely untrue. I am validly ordained as a priest. I was consecrated by a college of bishops. I am far from being self-appointed. And this label of the far-right bishop accused of corrupting Christianity, that's a massive overreach by every measure. Yes, I was vilified and attacked by some open letter to the Times and other newspapers by other clergy in this country, clergy that didn't have the guts to get into the street and talk to the people that they are vilifying. But to label me as a man accused of corrupting Christianity? Christianity is a global religion. That is a massive statement, purely intent on damaging my relationship, damaging my ministry, damaging my name and my reputation. And I am now seriously looking at further consequences for Sky News. I have the proof to demonstrate the defamation that they have labelled me with today. And I am taking legal counsel as to what to do next. But I will say this, and I will say it, I am unashamedly and unapologetically proclaiming the gospel of Jesus Christ. I will not back down from that. I don't preach about immigration like they said. I don't preach about Islam like they said. I have views and opinions on those that I share in a public context, but they are not the context of my ministry, because my ministry is about preaching the gospel of Jesus Christ, nothing else. And if that offends people, then be offended, because I make no apologies for the fact that truth will always offend someone. But today Sky News have overstepped the mark. I was pretty open-minded when they released it on YouTube yesterday, but to see the way that they're writing it up and portraying it today, Sky News, hear me and hear me well. You have not heard the last from me.
Good on you, Bishop. And all of these lies from the MSM, before we even get to the disgrace of a national broadcaster, the British bashing corporation. And can I just say to begin with, I am so sick of folks saying, oh, we should be so proud of this once great institution. What? The degenerates behind Jimmy Savile and Martin Bashir and Hugh Edwards? No. This organisation has always shamed the UK. And yesterday evening, it was once again making the headlines across the globe for all the wrong reasons.
About the BBC chairman has announced that both the Director General, Tim Davie, and the new CEO, Deborah Turness, are to resign.
It is 16 minutes after 6 o'clock. I'm Nana Akua. We have some breaking news here on GB News. Tim Davie, the Director General of the BBC, will announce his resignation this evening amid allegations of bias at the corporation. It is understood in a statement, Tim Davie says there have been some mistakes made, and as Director General, I have to take ultimate responsibility.
Some breaking news coming into us here at Sky regarding the BBC. We are hearing that BBC Director General Tim Davie and the CEO of News, Deborah Turness, have resigned following that criticism that a BBC Panorama documentary misled viewers.
Now, you'll know by now the controversy spawned from the leak of a dossier of shame for the corporation, which included this fraudulent edit of Donald Trump on January the 6th.
Walk down to the Capitol, and I'll be there with you, and we fight. We fight like hell. We're going to walk down to the Capitol, and we're going to cheer on our brave senators and congressmen and women.
Forget BBC Verify, it's now BBC Verily. But this has been the case for so long that anyone still defending this corrupted organisation complicit in the COVID scam, the Diana setup and the undermining of Brexit is a bad actor who you simply must not trust. Key among them is Adam Bolton. But first, this time of year, the air gets harsher, the heating's on, and skin takes a beating. Dryness, fine lines, that loss of bounce. So now I need to tell you about how I've been avoiding those issues through the incredible products of One Skin, the world's first skin longevity company. It's led by an all-female team of PhDs in skin regeneration and tissue engineering, and their standout technology is the OS1 peptide. Instead of just masking dryness, OS1 is designed to work at the cellular level, targeting senescent cells, the troublemakers behind wrinkles and reduced elasticity, so skin can behave more like its younger self. By addressing aging at the source, OS1 helps support a stronger moisture barrier, improves the look of firmness and bounce, and smooths rough, tired-looking texture. The result is skin that looks and feels more resilient, better hydrated, and visibly healthier, supported from the source rather than just the surface. The range is simple but powerful. The best sellers: OS1 Face, a moisturizer and longevity serum in one; OS1 Body for crepey, dry or thinning skin, perfect when the seasons change; and OS1 Eye, their most concentrated formula for the delicate eye area. Every formula is dermatologist tested, safe for sensitive skin, NEA approved, backed by 5 published clinical studies, and trusted with over 10,000 5-star reviews. If you're ready to upgrade your routine for the colder months, start with Face and build from there. This season, don't just moisturize, support your skin at the cellular level with One Skin. And for a limited time, you can try One Skin with 15% off using code OUTSPOKEN at oneskin.co. That's 15% off at oneskin.co with the code OUTSPOKEN. After you purchase, they'll ask you where you heard about them. And please support our show and tell them it was via Dan Wootton Outspoken. Try One Skin today. But now, back to the show.
What we're seeing now already is that media organisations such as the Telegraph, which has been campaigning on this matter, which frankly are vastly inferior to the BBC, when it comes to partisanship and balance are managing to set an agenda and to stir up a political response.
Not to mention the truly nutty hard leftist Emily Maitlis, who has single-handedly proven, by the way, the BBC's institutional bias in one human being on the fake news agents, who, as Graham Linehan put it, how would you know what it's about, Emily Maitlis, John Sopel and Lewis Goodall? You've been ignoring the same issues. I suspect you are not rushing to broadcast so you can all get your stories straight. But I have to say, worst of all, is Nick Robinson. He's paid something like over £400,000 by the British Bashing Corporation. So I guess there's good reason for him to spend his weekend as an attack dog for the corrupt corporation against Boris Johnson, where he posted on X, hands up all of those who think Boris Johnson is well placed to lecture anyone else on upholding standards and admitting mistakes. Now, whether you agree with that comment or not, what is astonishing is that we're then meant to take him seriously as an impartial reporter on the crisis this morning, as he continued to try and deflect attention with his ongoing obsession over GB News.
A majority of the BBC board appear to agree with their editorial advisor that there is a problem of institutional bias reflected in that coverage, not just of Donald Trump, but of Gaza and Israel, and also the argument about trans rights. That argument has been led in particular by one board member, Sir Robbie Gibb, a former BBC executive in charge of political programmes who became Prime Minister Theresa May's Downing Street Director of Communications, is one of those involved in the founding of GB News and a supporter of the Conservative Party. Friends of Sir Robbie insist he has repeatedly and consistently supported Tim Davie as Director General and wanted him to stay, and point out that he's written articles supporting the BBC and the licence fee.
Dan Hodges posted, absolutely incredible. The BBC has caught bang to rights, partially editing its flagship current affairs programme. Its Director General and new CEO resign, and the Today programme is still pushing the narrative. It's all the fault of shadowy board members mounting a coup. Just listen to the loaded intro that Nick Robinson gave to one of his ex-BBC pals.
By those with a political agenda supported by right-wing newspapers and by some on the right of British politics. Well, a man who is used to dealing with this on both sides of the divide joins us in the studio this morning. Sir Craig Oliver was editor of the BBC's 6 o'clock and 10 o'clock.
Unbelievable. At least Charles Moore came on and pointed out the massive elephant in the room.
And if I may say so, I think that the way this has been covered this morning shows the problem you collectively have, which is that you're already trying to accuse people of coups and that sort of thing, rather than tell the listeners what this report, this internal memo said, and how serious the accusations in it are.
But with respect, Lord Moore, you're here doing exactly that.
Well, no, because you're already asking me about coups and that sort of thing.
No, I was asking you where you stand on the BBC before we talk about coups. I think that's really important for our listeners.
This should be good for the BBC, because it should really make them respect the idea of diversity of opinion and impartiality in their coverage. And what the internal memo shows is Nick Robinson, I think, tried to turn this into a thing about how Trump is threatening the BBC. There's actually only one thing about Trump in this, by far, which is important, but it's only one. By far the biggest thing in the internal memo is about the coverage of the Israel-Gaza.
But as the soon-to-be ex-CEO of BBC News, Deborah Turness, arrived defiantly at the corporation's headquarters today, she made it clear that they have no idea. These people have no idea. They are now past the last chance saloon.
I would like to say it has been the privilege of my career to serve as the CEO of BBC News and to work with our brilliant team of journalists. I stepped down over the weekend because the buck stops with me. But I'd like to make one thing very clear. BBC News is not institutionally biased. That's why it's the world's most trusted news provider.
Why did you fail to deal with the mistakes that were made?
And see my teams. Thank you so much.
Right, we're going in now.
Do you think that the journalists are corrupt like President Trump says? Do you think the journalists
Of course our journalists aren't corrupt. Our journalists are hard-working people who strive for impartiality.
She doesn't get it.
Stand by their journalism.
Is there institutional bias at the BBC?
There is no institutional bias. Mistakes are made, but there's no institutional bias.
But why weren't the mistakes dealt with on Trump, on anti-Semitism, on women's rights?
I'm sure that story will emerge, but for now I'm going to go in and see our team.
Do you think the board acted against you? Do you think the board acted against you?
This way, Deborah.
Completely and utterly tone deaf. So I am with Liz Truss, who posted in response to Trump's attack, "I'm glad the US president and the rest of the world are seeing the BBC for what it is. Its failure to tell the truth on everything from transgender ideology to economics to Gaza has done huge damage to politics and government in this country. This should be the end of nationalised broadcasting." And now, in the past hour, a letter sent by Trump's lawyer demands the BBC retract and apologise for the false and defamatory claims, or he'll sue for $1 billion. The deadline is 5 p.m. Eastern Time this Friday. That's 10 p.m. UK time, meaning the clock is quite literally ticking for the BBC. Although regardless of whether they give Trump what he is quite rightly demanding, I believe it is already far too late for this disgusting, for this crooked, for this failed organisation that shames our United Kingdom. Now, the Superstar Panel. Reform UK's epping pick lady, Orla Minihane, with me alongside Chris Davies of True Conservative Media. Orla, wow. Let's start with the breaking news. Trump is completely right to do this, isn't he?
Yes, he is. He's absolutely right to do it. I mean, look, you know, this is what makes me die with the BBC. Oh, they're the same. Lessons will be learned. We should have dealt with this. This wasn't a mistake that was made by a junior journalist. This wasn't a mistake, you know, somebody's quoted the wrong age or the wrong, you know, the wrong political party. This was this is absolute fabrication. They completely lied. They doctored a speech that he made, which then caused riots and caused absolute global mayhem. And they're saying, oh, nothing to see here. Oh, you know, blah. They're an absolute joke, the BBC. They've been a joke for years. And absolutely he is. And I hope he sues them so that I hope he ruins them, because they have brought so much distress and so many lies and just complete fabrication to so many things that have affected this country. And you know what? So many people have had to pay the price because of their bias and and frankly, their evil, the way that they have.
Yes.
You know, the way, you know, look at what they did with the Palestinian, you know, the panorama thing with the Palestinian boy who happened to be a son of one of the. It's just horrendous. You know, they're anti-Semitic, they're anti-British people. They're just vile, and I hope he brings them down.
Yeah, I mean, it is a long litany of evil, Chris Davies.
Yes.
And this is what shocks me when people talk about this once great BBC. What? When they were shielding the worst paedophile in British history.
They knew about it. They knew about it.
Yeah.
Do you know what? They are the ultimate, the arrogance of the BBC as well. You know, we are the world's greatest news channel. You know, everybody comes to us for trusted. No, they don't. We all know, we've all seen through it. You're right. Jimmy Savile, you know, the amount of paedophiles they've covered up, the amount of lies they've told, the one-sided, you know, rhetoric that they've given us around so many different stories and coverage. It's just absolute. I'm so glad. I hope this brings them down. I think that we need a new age of media, a new age of news, truth, transparency, where, you know, yes, you can say I'm a broadcaster for, you know, and I favour the left or I favour the right. That's your prerogative, but don't lie and make stuff up, because it's just absolutely it's just awful. I'm so glad. I honestly hope he destroys them.
Me too. But I mean, Chris Davies, the problem that we've got is all of these cretins are in it together, right? So if we look at the Off Communists, which is the state regulator that you'll remember succeeded in driving me out of GB News as they launched this big campaign and the boss has folded very quickly. Check out their statement following Tim Davies' resignation. I'd like to thank Tim Davies for his contribution. He's led at a time of great change and challenge, says Dame Melanie Dawes, the chief executive of Ofcom. Who the hell is she kidding? Chris Davies. I mean, look at the past 5 years. It's been a total mess. From Gary Lineker to Bob Villan to Gaza to Trump to trans, and she's congratulating him because they are all one big sicko club.
Spot on, Dan. Absolutely on the money. I'm sat here with a big grin on my face today because, look, Schadenfreude ordinarily is a very unfortunate emotion, but you've got to give it to Trump. He's gone full Austin Powers, but bigly. I believe him when he says that he will sue. I think he'll get his apology. But when I look through your monologue at Concast and Sky and BBC and Cover Up, I remember when the Today programme used to have credibility, Dan, about 40 years ago. Not anymore, long since. Yeah. And when you go through the eclectic mix of flotsam and jetsam that you did during your monologue, they have one thing in common. They're all part of the same club. They're all rotten to the core. And I felt sorry for about 15 seconds for the man of the cloth who decided to go on Sly News. Because frankly and honestly, if you choose to go on the mainstream media, expect to have your words twisted. Yeah. The only places you can trust now are the Dan Wootton Outspoken show, 2C TV, Urban Scoop, and other independent media producers.
Totally, don't do it. Do not do it. Stop thinking you can change them because you can't. It is so baked in. Now, Ola, I've got to ask you about Adil Ray. Seriously, like, look at how quickly woke ITV gets rid of folk if they go against the narrative.
Look what they did to Rylan. Look what they did to Rylan.
Totally.
Because he happened to give his opinion on something. This is vile.
And he hasn't been back on. He hasn't been back on.
No.
But this dude openly advocating for Sharia law, and I just wanted to spell out today, Ola, because I think some people don't quite realise the reality of Sharia law, because of course you've got someone like Adil Ray saying, oh, it's just haters of Islam who are painting this negative picture of what Sharia law really is. He's hauled into a meeting, but allowed on air on Friday. In some ways, I don't mind. He said the quiet bit out loud. You know, we now have an Islamist who wants the introduction of Sharia law sitting on ITV's cosy sofa. That should tell you everything we need to know about the mainstream media.
It does. It does. It's terrifying. And you know what? I can't grasp the fact that people, the ignorant left, are embracing this in this sort of woke ideology and thinking that these people are their friends. They are not your friends. Everything that you stand for with your lefty, do-gooder agenda, these people are against. You listed it earlier. They hate the LGBT community. They hate women. They don't want women to have equal rights. They don't want gay people to have equal rights. They don't want gay people to exist. They want complete and utter domination. And when I see these people with like signs saying, oh, Allah for LGBTQ or Allah loves gays. No, he doesn't. They hate you. They
want you off the top of that building.
They're not your friends. It's game over for you idiots. I can't grasp the mentality of these people. I was in, if you look at the Tower, I can't remember if you guys remember, but the Tower Hamlets scenario where they wanted to pass us off or condemn us as all far-right thugs and the pink ladies and and all that jazz. And we went up there. These men loathe us. They loathe us. We are scum of the earth. white women are scum of the earth, gay men are scum of the earth, and that you can see and feel the contempt. But then you have all the stand up for racism with their pink hair and their blah, 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 their rainbow flags. And I'm looking at them thinking, oh my God, you're the first ones that are going to be gone. You're the first ones that they're going to get rid of. Don't be so stupid. They are not your friends. It's crazy. And what I don't understand is this constant bowing down to Sharia law, and bowing down to, this misogyny. I just can't understand it. What has happened to us? What has happened to us?
It's the definition of suicidal empathy, and it is the beginning of the end of the West unless we fight this. And part of fighting it now involves the destruction of the mainstream media. I've never been more convinced of that.
Thank you so much for watching Dan Wootton Outspoken. Please click on my face just to the bottom left to subscribe to this brand new independent news source, and turn on the notification bell so you'll be alerted to our brand new live shows, uncancelled interviews, and special royal episodes. Outspoken is also now available as a podcast, so you can listen to the show every weekday on the go, wherever you are.